Wavicle is an award-winning data and analytics company based in Chicago with a national presence. As a provider of award-winning cloud data, analytics, and AI solutions and services, Wavicle combines deep technical expertise and industry knowledge with the proprietary automation tools to support the rapid shift to modern data architectures, real-time insights, and AI. Wavicle Data Solutions is proud to grow through almost 100% referral. With solid delivery reputability, proudly leveraging the ability to meet clients where they are to unlock the power of data. Wavicle Data Solutions.
Hello, and welcome to Tag Data Talk. With us today, we have Rohit Lal, CIO of Saia, and we're talking about Intrigue meets integrity, striking the balance between innovation and responsible AI. Hi, Rohit. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad that you are here. I know that you are constantly on the move, and we appreciate your slice of time. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you so cool?
I've been fortunate to have pretty much done most things in technology. I started off in development, moved into consulting, moved into sales, and then moved back into infrastructure and finally CIO. So it's been useful coming from the consulting background.
Wait a minute. You were in sales?
I was in sales.
I did not realize that.
I ran the Eastern Seaboard for an ERP company.
Fancy. All right.
So it's been useful because having worked those roles, it's easier relating to the business, right? Because I've carried a bag, I've done quotas, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which makes it easy when you're talking to the business about what can we do with technology, because I have a sort of good sense of having done it or at least worked with people doing it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And you work for this neat company that has these giant assets that drive around everywhere, bringing product, right? So that's kind of neat.
We do. 50 million pounds every night.
Oh, my gosh.
1.4 million miles driven every night.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that is a
complex.
lot. Yeah, both of my brothers were truck drivers, so I definitely appreciate Saia. So we're talking about this balance between innovation and responsible AI, and you heard that term, responsible AI. It seems like people are not using the term ethical AI as much. Now they're calling it responsible AI because I feel like it's a little bit more encompassing and a little bit less threatening. But there's this desire to sort of innovate and charge ahead. But at the same time, you got to balance it with, are we being ethical? Are we being responsible? So let's talk a little bit about, what do we mean when we say a responsible AI? What does that even mean? Or you can look at it the other way and say, well, what does it mean to be irresponsible?
AI is a cool tool. I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. And to your point, the terminology has changed. When it was machine learning, it was a little easier to understand what machine learning was. But even then, we had things like model drift, and the outcome wasn't really what you thought because I've got biases building. And so to me, responsible AI is just making sure that you're sort of controlling the model, knowing what's going on, as well as over time, you don't have biases built in. That's sort of the high-level question. But I think from a governance perspective, it's important because what one doesn't know is you can go crazy with AI.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got front-facing AI tools, you're talking to a customer, then you've got Gen AI on top of that. And the problem with a Gen AI kind of a model with machine learning is you quite never know. You can't reproduce the same result.
Right.
In the machine learning language, you can.
You can, yeah.
So here, because
it's hard to validate.
It's hard to validate.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's hard to validate. And so how do you know it's the right answer? And over time, it's self-learning by definition, which makes it a lot more complicated. You might land up with the wrong answer or even hallucinations.
Right. So is there something to be said about, like machine learning, you can always unpack and look and see like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I see how they did the model.
Yeah.
But with a lot of AI systems, that's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
So it's the inability to unpack, it's the kind of opaque box, if you will. And then the third thing you mentioned is the human in the loop, but not just making space for the human in the loop, actually having the human in the loop.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, a simple example from tying into what you were saying, a simple example might be you ask an LLM a question it gives you all this detail and then finally gives you the answer. How many people read all the detail? They go straight to the answer. So creating the human in the loop space doesn't always mean there's a human in the loop. So that's a great point. But what about organizations, companies today, especially it seems like more larger enterprise, but really everybody that is focused on like this innovation side. I've actually had a person in a similar role that you're in tell me to close my ears for a second. And he said, what I really like to do, and this is a major retail company, he said, what I really like to do is innovate with AI and hopefully it comes out responsible. So how do you balance that? Like you want to encourage the innovation, but at the same time, you want to keep the responsible part in check.
I think first of all, AI is a tool. And so maybe that's how you start off with not everything is an AI solution waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. Part of it, to your point, whether it's a large retailer or a small company, we are to a certain extent trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
So then the way I look at it, you've got different ideas of productivity is one thing, but that's an easier one. Chatbots opening up data to opening up solutions with a knowledge articles, serving that up. That's sort of a little easier to determine.
Yeah.
But when you start getting more complicated, it starts getting a little harder. Where the challenge also comes in is you've got so many vendors producing AI stuff.
Yes.
And they're reaching out to the business. So how do you sort of put an arm around, on one hand, you do want to encourage innovation because these things have value.
For sure.
On the other hand, what are the guardrails you can put around what you should be going with or not going with, and whether there's truly value in it, either value in it or how sustainable is the solution, how scalable is it, how secure is it?
Yeah.
I guess getting back to your responsible question, that's the other part. Where does the data reside? Who owns the data? And what are they doing with the data? Are they training their models on your data, even though you think they're not?
Yeah, right. Good point. So work upstream and figure that out.
Yeah.
But also, are there triggers? Like, are there certain things that you go like, well, that's not okay or that is okay? Like, are there certain use cases where that's the case? Or are there certain data sets or are there certain problems that you're solving that's the case? Like, what are these yellow flags that we should be looking for?
I think for us, we're sort of a little bit more open to what's internal facing because you can't put the human in the loop. Mm-hmm. We're trying to be much more cautious about anything that's customer outside facing. Because if you give the wrong answer, you've got a reputational risk. You've got possibly even a liability. So we're trying to draw the line between affecting the outside versus probably inside. Mm-hmm. We're still trying to inch along even on the inside. Like there's definitely a lot more you need to do. The other part, which concerned me, which we're not there yet, I don't think a lot of people are, when you start deploying agents at scale, you don't have the human, you're doing it at the cost of having humans having the productivity.
Right. So
now what happens if your model goes awry? How do you go back and who's going to sort of take over?
Right.
Right?
Oh.
So there's this whole testing aspect of it. You still need to have that whole governance around what's going on and how often do you test to make sure that you still got the right answers. For us right now, it's really more of internal, we feel a lot more comfortable with. External, we're being a lot more cautious about before we start turning over stuff to the outside world.
So kind of focus on the inside and use cases that where if something goes wrong, you can kind of fix it because it's internal and you're not getting the whole world involved. So start with that. But just a quick brag, you were nominated for an Orby recently, correct?
Yeah, so I got the Georgia Orby 2 years ago.
You earned it.
And then I was a national finalist last year and this year, so 2 national finalists.
Right, and that's a big focus on like boldly innovating.
Yeah.
But so you're obviously a person that is all about bold innovation. But then how do you balance that? Like, are there culture shifts or mindsets, or is it tactical in some way that you help your teams understand? Like, I'm not saying just go ahead. I'm saying you got to have some things in check. How do you manage that? Congratulations, by the way. That's really impressive.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing in my mind really is we're working for the business. We're business partners. That's the biggest one.
Okay.
We're not a technology lab that's sitting over there doing stuff. So everything needs to have a business need, a business value. Mm-hmm. Our Innovation Council, for instance, has a lot of people who are were constructively unhappy, if you will, with the state of things, and they want to say, what about the solution? And then we partner up with them. But there's more of a process around where do we spend our money? What do we do? What do we focus on? So, but I think the trick really in my mind is we know technology. We don't always know what the ROI is, what the use cases are. But if you can partner with the business and saying, you tell us what your pain point is, and we can tell you how technology can get there, that's a really happy partnership.
Wow, it's funny how many of these things all come down to the human part, the human element, and forming that partnership, and that's what's key. So the partnership. Do you have an example where you've had to slow down? Like you've had to sort of slow down an innovation because you thought like, it doesn't have to be where you are currently or something that you've observed in market or that you've heard about, but any kind of example where you might have to slow down some innovation because you're worried about the responsible side?
Not necessarily slow. I mean, so I think by and large, intuitively, we sort of try and not go outside the boundaries right now. It's more of a learning right now.
Yes.
But it is definitely pushing back sometimes on, this is not really an AI use case.
Oh.
We were having this discussion around how do you do lead management. So we were saying, well, you know what, we have how many quotes come in and you know what, how many quotes convert. And therefore, we kind of have a good sense of who's actually asking the question, and maybe that becomes lead management. And someone said, oh, we can use AI for that. He said, not really. Not really. You know?
Yeah. So you do sometimes have to push back.
Have to push back and say, that's not really an AI use case. And or we were having a discussion with somebody about, well, I can have a voice-based robot calling up people. I said, yeah, you could, but for the volume we have, we could probably just have somebody else doing it. Why would I want to invest in it? So a lot of it does come down to where do you want to focus on?
Yeah.
And what do you learn with? And is it truly necessary to go with AI and the complexity of, because anything you introduce has a complexity angle to it.
Yes.
Or is there some other place you want to focus on?
And a cost. And more complex means more difficult to undo or redo or back up or any of that. So it's almost like we're in the age of anti-Occam's razor. The simplest solution is no longer the one they want to pick. It's the more complex. So people-wise, is this a top-down thing, trying to balance bold innovation with responsible AI? Or do you think it could be, like, who has the primary responsibility to make sure that balance happens?
I think we do. And the reason I say we do as in it's a partnership. It's not an individual. For us, we have the ideas bubbling up from the bottom up, but we do have a top-down view of what should be prioritizing, what really is going to add value to it. So it's a combination.
So it's not just some chief AI officer that's saying like, oh, no, we can't do that, we can't do this. No, I don't really think is a chief, because AI itself is a technology that is going to encompass everybody. It's going to affect everyone. So I would be concerned with just having one individual as an AI. As a group, I can understand. You may have a legal point of view. You may have a technology point of view. You may have points of view, or you may have a data point of view, right? As long as your data is clean and all that stuff. But I do get concerned when we say we'll have one person is looking at AI, because not everything will be an AI solution. Oh yeah,
right?
For sure.
And so to me, it's a business problem. AI happens to be a tool, and you may need to change processes, and you might need to sort of monitor those processes and see what's working, what's not working. But that's not really an individual per se. It's just different points of view. That's the way
I'm actually hearing layers from you.
Yeah.
So, for example, you kind of have the individual layer of like, hey, as an individual, I don't feel good about this. Like this, I'm not sure this is responsible AI. But then you also have the department or group level, and then maybe you have the company level, and even the market. Like even as a market, like maybe the advertising agencies have their own philosophy or something. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. But I think you do need to be clear about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So some of that governance around what are you putting in, how are you going to test it, how are you going to ensure that you don't have the hallucinations, how do you ensure that there's no model drift, that over time there's this testing that goes on. The other part which kind of does get complicated is, especially when you're absorbing more articles, more data, more knowledge, is again, you might have some biases creeping in over time. It didn't start off initially, but who knows what was ingested at some point.
Right.
And it became self-learning, and all of a sudden, now you've got a problem.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of literacy that has to happen. You got to teach people, and you got to say, like, listen, here are the kinds of things that where AI becomes irresponsible. And is there some, tactically speaking, is there like a checklist or a committee, or how do you know? Does it go through AI risk management group, or what would you recommend?
We do. I think a committee with some kind of checkoffs, and as for us, I said one of the obvious ones is it external facing or not? Where does the data reside? Who's looking at it? And then obviously, what's the value in it? But just as an aside, it used to be in the machine learning days, you had to have a data scientist, and it was more structured because you didn't have the people doing it.
Right.
Gen AI has sort of opened it up, and everyone now thinks you can get to it. But first of all, it's a language model.
Right.
It's not really data itself.
Yeah.
Secondly, because it's now been accessible, doesn't necessarily mean it's any easier. It's just now there's a natural language front end. So it's become easier, but it doesn't mean that the governance and the complexity has gone away because it's available. So I think that's something you need to take into account too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So let me ask you one last question, which is we've talked about a lot of different strategies and different things, but what final piece of advice would you want to give someone? Like, let's say you're talking to someone who's a new leader and they're trying to figure out, like, okay, I'm in this new role and I'm trying to figure out how to strike the balance between, boldly innovating with AI and keeping ourselves responsible.
What I would say is, first of all, make sure you know what your guardrails are, know what your governance processes are. Don't hold back the learning as long as it's internal. So this thing is going to change the world, right? So there's a lot that we do need to learn. But be careful before you're scaling it or productionalizing it and putting it to the outside world. Make sure that you've got testing to start off with, and make sure you have a process in place about testing over time, because you will need to keep constantly testing or do the regression testing, even though things do change over time.
Love it.
So it's not you can't just release it.
Right. It's not just once and done. Yeah, I'm done. Hands are clean. It's a constant process, a culture change.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, our roles are changing a little bit. It used to be the technologists at least control the technology. That's not the case anymore, right? Because it's so available to everybody in the business, whether it's a vendor talking to someone in the marketing side or whatever else. So that is sort of the other part of it. How do you retain relevance as a technologist, make sure you've got the end-to-end processes and governance, yet have a process in place, and you're not sort of hampering people from doing it. You just want to make sure that they've got the right checkoffs on that. What should they be looking at?
Right.
In a way, we're almost extending it to the way we look at cybersecurity, right? So we've got this whole cybersecurity questionnaire process, which says, where does the data, like how is that particular third-party vendor, for instance, dealing with it? And so we extended some of those questions in that too.
Right.
About what you're doing with the data and how do you do it. I'm talking more about the vendor, but the concept is the same.
Yeah, makes sense.
That you need to really extend what your current processes are. It's not brand new that way. It's just we need to be more careful, because it's easier to assume it's perfect because it gives you a good answer, but it might not be the right answer all the time.
Right.
That's what the trick is.
Oh, that's great. What wonderful content. Thank you so much to Rohit Lal for talking to us on Tag Data Talk about Intrigue meets integrity, striking the balance between innovation and responsible AI.
Wow. Thank you.